with the loss of moral certainty which took place in the 60s.
Just bring it though towards the men and the situation men find themselves in today.
I'm leading up to that, Mark.
Okay, absolutely.
I'm leading up to it. Once you have abortion, what is sacred then about the fidelity between a man and a woman? When the product of that, the child of that, isn't sacred. So with that has come a demeaning of the role of the man and the family. And it wasn't long when you had the left-wing government that came in with Whitlam, that they went on to bring about changes which have had horrific effects on our society, as has subsequent changes by subsequent left-wing governments, particularly our own present one, Juliet Gillard's government.
I've got to say, Alex, so in terms of Gough Whitlam, that's what really gets under my skin these days, the way this man is put on a pedestal as some sort of iconic figure in God. And I'm sorry, I have to agree with you on this, that I think we are still paying the price today for the Whitlam years.
Oh, we are paying.
And we will well into the future until this society wakes up to itself and starts to reverse some of the idiocies of the mid-70s.
Well, we had that massive spending spree that he started, and from having a tremendous overseas capital, we went into, the first time we ever went into this massive debt where we went out looking for $4 billion. We thought, $4 billion? And he was getting it from Killarney. Killarney wasn't getting it from the accepted Jewish people who handled the money. He got it from an Arab, so that meant he had to be put out. Up to then he was supported, but once he did this even-handedness, he was finished. But anyhow, getting off that particular thing to what happened with the family law, Lionel Murphy, a very left-wing as you can be, he brought it in. Remember that when Lionel Murphy came in and made Attorney General, the first thing he did was rush into ASIO to see the files that were on him. And anyhow, he brought in this horrendous destructive act, the Family Law Act, which is equal to any Star Chamber court proceedings that England had in its worst times, and that Russia's had, or that China has. It is secret, it can't be reported, and its doings have been horrific. If it was open to the public and the public knew what was going on, it wouldn't be allowed to function, but it isn't.
So there's no transparency, that's what
no transparency. This is dictatorship.
So that's something you and I agree on, that these days we keep getting told we have more freedoms, more rights, but in fact, and I'd argue very, very strongly, that we have less than ever, and they're deteriorated day by day by day by agendas that you don't necessarily see.
Well, you're absolutely right, Mark. This is not Australia. We are not in Australia anymore. We are not the lucky country, and people have to wake up to the reality of just how horrendous this movement is. John Howard was aware that this was a grossly unjust functioning organism in our society, and he made some effort to try and mitigate its effect by bringing in the equal parenting, which of course was resented greatly by the left wing and is ignored greatly in its functioning.
Alex, we're about to swing to a break, but let me just say, when we come back, we'll look at the Family Law Act, what it's doing to men, and where people find themselves in today. I'm Mark Barbaloo, you're watching Mark My Words. Welcome back to Mark My Words. It's very good to have your company this evening. My special guest tonight is Dr. Alex Sharah. We're talking the family court, we're talking the erosion of men's rights and the circumstances that led to this situation that we find ourselves in today. What is going on, Alex? Where are these agendas coming from?
Well, let's go back into a little bit of time, Mark. After the French Revolution, which was in 1789, there was a massive turning away from the idea that God existed. It was forced then into the education and the university and the intellectual life of people. The philosophy of life changed. Prior to that, God existed and people had certain ideas of ethics resulting from that. After the French Revolution, the intellectual world in the universities is very much taken up with the concepts that were given to us in the French Revolution. And these things are affecting now the philosophy behind the laws that we have, and particularly the laws now in the Family Law Act. There is no morality in that law at all, and no effort to try and have justice or morality. There is just an ideology which is really an ideology totally undemocratic, totally un-Australian. And of course, to bring it in and to make it effective, it has to be done secretly, can't be reported on, so the public can't see and assess what our legal system is doing.
But why? Like, why do governments of either ilk not change the situation? Who is controlling it? We have a situation with the Family Law Court in Australia where we have this secretive tribunal, for want of a better word, where decisions are made to destroy lives. Why is nothing being done about it?
Well, there are two things you brought out. Why is it happening is because, although we elect our representatives, the way in which laws come about now due to pressure groups, and the left-wing pressure groups are so strong, affecting both the Liberal and the Labor, that they're unrepresentative of the public. They don't put these issues to us. And as an example of that, when the Gillard government made an adjustment to change the Family Law Act in November last year, it happened at 9:53 at night, out of the news cycle, quickly, secretively, and they brought in changes which they'd already worked out prior to the business, and these changes then criminalised men in every aspect of a man's activity, so that it's impossible now for a man, impossible is the word I say, for any man to stay married if a woman doesn't want it. For no reason at all he can be put out, because she feels in some way inhibited by him, threatened by him, demeaned by him, abused by him.
Are women being encouraged to lie? Are they being encouraged to lie by the system?
Of course. It's a terrible thing to think that women, who are the purveyors of our values and are the heart of a home in a good situation, can be perverted so easily and quickly into thinking in some way that they are benefiting from having these powers. They're not just, they're totally unjust, and women, very many women, and women who often in other aspects would be good women, will avail themselves of these when they want to.
But what about that gentleman who was on the Harbour Bridge making a point?
Oh, that was horrific. He was on the Harbour Bridge because he'd done everything he could to try and see his children, and he was forbidden to see them. And so he's sitting on the Harbour Bridge, and eventually when he comes down, he's taken, and Barry O'Farrell, our Premier now, his take on that was, we'll have to look at the security of the Harbour Bridge. When he went to court, the judge's take on it was, you're not to go across the Harbour Bridge anymore, you've got to go through the tunnel. There's totally missing the point that was made by this man, was that he had suffered brutally in this family law shenanigans, and he was deprived of the natural right, and his child too, so that they could have that contact, at least contact, even if he couldn't live with the child.
Just quickly, let me just read to you just a tiny bit of what someone by the name of John, I think, who's in Victoria, wrote to me after you appeared last on the show. And he said, that guy, meaning you, is spot on with his philosophy and feelings about the family court and the women's rights agenda walking over the top of men. The family unit, as it once was and really is meant to be or should be. I'm an old battler of the family court myself, had a big fight, and will always wish I didn't ever have it and wish I'd never had it. John goes on to talk about having peace of mind in his heart. He goes on to say, the only reason my loved one is being tortured by them, meaning I say the family law courts of Australia, is because of the family court's decisions, which in turn put my children in vulnerable circumstances, which deviates with praying and angry and vulnerable feminazis. And he speaks about his unprotected children and a long and sad story. Is this the sort of hurt that you're coming across day after day?
Every day. Sometimes 2 and 3 in the same day will come in with the story of the pain and the reality of the effects of this family law court. This is tearing our society apart.
Now, you're a psychiatrist by trade, by profession. From a psychiatrist's viewpoint, how deadly is this?
Well, I have to say, Mark, that people who think that the normal social cell is the family, the father with the mother, the biological father and mother with the children and caring for their children and caring for each other, people who think like that are in for a rude shock, because we are, through the operation of the family law court, and because of the family law court it's producing an attitude in the community, we're producing massive numbers of single-parent families, parents who might have temporary partners. These don't go well with the children, and these children don't go on to achieve their potential.
Alex, in terms of the men's justice movement, let me just say this before we go, because we have to wrap up very, very soon. It's not just for women, is it?
No.
Sorry, not just for men, rather.
No, it's for the whole
It's not just for
society.
men. So women are free to join the men's justice movement?
We would have had the founder of this movement, a woman, on tonight, Stella, but she couldn't come tonight because she's sick and there are problems for her at the moment. But she will in the future when I come on. She'll certainly have something to say. No, women have been the ones who have been supporting me.
So women are welcome to contact you. Look,
women agree with it.
Dr. Alex Sharah, thank you very much for being on the show. I know time goes very quickly. Look, if you want to know more about this, please contact me, mark@nonpctv.com. It's a huge issue. It's not just limited to men. So if you're a woman out there with views, please contact me. I'd love to share with them. Back after this very short break.